Hi everyone, welcome back to our podcast. I'm Linda.
And I'm Leo. We're super excited to have you with here. This is the new podcast on how to speak like a native speaker.
That's right, Leo. We know that many of you are working hard to improve your English, and one of the biggest goals is to sound more like a native speaker. But what does that really mean?
Exactly, Linda. Speaking like a native isn't just about perfect pronunciation or using big words. It's about feeling natural, confident, and making your English flow smoothly. Today, we're going to focus on the basics things you can start practicing right away.
So, let's dive in. First, let's talk about intonation. Now, don't let that word scare you. Intonation simply means the way your voice goes up and down when you speak. It's like the music of the language.
That's a great way to put it, Linda. Think of it this way: when you listen to native speakers, their voices are always moving. They go up, they go down. This helps make the speech sound interesting and natural.
Exactly. For example, when you ask a question in English, your voice usually goes up at the end, like this. Do you like pizza? Did you hear how my voice went up at the end of the question?
And when you make a statement, your voice usually goes down. For example, I like pizza, see the difference. The tone is more relaxed, and it helps the listener understand that you're giving information, not asking for it.
A simple way to practice this is by listening to native speakers, whether it's on TV, YouTube, or even in movies. Pay attention to how their voices move. Try to copy that when you're speaking.
Yes, imitation is key. Don't worry about sounding silly at first. It's all part of the learning process, and remember, the more you practice, the better you'll get.
Now, let's talk about linking words together. Native speakers often link words in a sentence so that they flow smoothly. For example, instead of saying, I am going to the store, very clearly and separately, a native speaker might say, I'm going to the store.
That's right. They blend the words together. So, I am becomes I'm, and going to becomes gonna. It's not wrong to say each word separately, but linking words together makes your speech sound more natural and faster like a native speaker.
And this brings us to contractions. Contractions are when two words are combined into one, like do not becoming don't, or will not becoming won't. Native speakers use contractions all the time because it makes speaking quicker and easier.
Exactly, Linda. And for those of you who are just starting out, don't worry if this seems a little tricky. It might take some time to get used to, but with practice, it will become second nature.
Now, let's take a moment to talk about vocabulary. Learning new words is important, but learning how to use those words like a native speaker is even more important. For example, native speakers use a lot of phrasal verbs. These are short phrases made up of a verb and a preposition, like give up, look after, or run out of.
Phrasal verbs can be a bit tricky because their meanings aren't always clear from the words themselves. But the more you hear and practice them, the more natural they'll become. It's also important to use idioms. These are phrases that don't literally mean what they say, like it's raining cats and dogs, which just means it's raining really hard.
Don't feel like you need to learn all of these at once. Start with a few that you hear often and try to use them in your conversations. This will help you sound more like a native speaker over time.
And remember, it's okay to make mistakes. Native speakers make mistakes too. What's important is that you keep practicing and don't get discouraged.
That's such an important point, Leo. Confidence is key. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become, and the more natural your English will sound.
So, to wrap up, let's quickly review. We talked about intonation, the music of your speech, linking words together to make your speech flow, using contractions to sound more natural, and learning phrasal verbs and idioms to enrich your vocabulary.
Okay, we're going to dive deeper into pronunciation and how to make your speech sound even more native-like. But for now, practice what we've covered today. Listen, imitate, and don't be afraid to experiment with your English.
Okay, and we talked about some basics like intonation, linking words, contractions, and building your vocabulary with phrasal verbs and idioms.
That's right, Leo. Now, we're going to dive deeper into pronunciation and rhythm. These are key elements that will really help you sound more like a native speaker.
So, let's start with pronunciation. One thing to remember is that English isn't a phonetic language. This means that words aren't always pronounced the way they're spelled. This can be confusing for learners, but it's something that native speakers take in stride.
Exactly. For example, think about the words though, thought, and through. They look similar, but each one is pronounced differently. The good news is, once you start recognizing patterns in pronunciation, it gets easier.
A great tip is to practice with minimal pairs. These are pairs of words that sound very similar but have one small difference, like ship and sheep or bad and bet. By practicing these, you can train your ears and mouth to notice and produce the subtle differences in sounds.
That's a fantastic point, Leo. And to really nail pronunciation, it's important to focus on individual sounds. These are the building blocks of English. For example, in English, we have different vowel sounds like the short I in ship and the long E in sheep.
Yes, and consonants too. Take the TH sound in this or that. This is a sound that doesn't exist in many other languages, so it can be tricky for learners. But with practice, you can master it.
A good way to practice pronunciation is by recording yourself speaking and then comparing it to native speakers. This way, you can hear the differences and work on getting closer to the native pronunciation.
And don't forget about stress. In English, some syllables in a word are pronounced louder and longer than others. For example, in the word computer, the stress is on the second syllable, computer. If you put the stress in the wrong place, it can be hard for people to understand you.
That's so true. Word stress can really change the meaning of what you're saying. For example, consider the words record as a noun, like a music record, and record as a verb, like to record a video. The stress changes the meaning, with the noun stress on the first syllable, record, and the verb stress on the second syllable, record.
And it's not just about stress in words. Sentence stress is equally important. In a sentence, we usually stress the most important words, which are often the nouns, main verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. For example, in the sentence, I want to go to the store, the words want, go, and store are stressed.
That's a great point, Leo. Native speakers naturally stress the important words, which helps the listener understand the main idea of the sentence. Practicing this can make your English sound much more natural.
Another thing to focus on is rhythm. English is a stress-timed language, which means that the rhythm of the sentence depends on the stressed syllables. The unstressed syllables are said more quickly and softly, while the stressed ones are emphasized.
For example, in the sentence, I want to go to the store, the stressed words want, go, and store create the rhythm. The other words are spoken quickly to fit into the rhythm created by the stressed words. This is what gives English its characteristic beat or rhythm.
And if you want to improve your rhythm, one fun way to practice is by listening to English songs or poetry. Pay attention to how the words flow together and try to mimic that rhythm in your own speech.
Speaking of rhythm, pauses are also important. Native speakers naturally pause at certain points in a sentence, usually after a thought or idea. Pausing not only makes your speech clearer, but it also gives you a moment to think about what you want to say next.
Right, and it's important to pause between phrases, not in the middle of them. For example, in the sentence, after I finish my homework, I'm going to watch a movie, you would pause after homework, not in the middle of finish my.
Pausing correctly can really improve your fluency and make your English sound more polished. And don't worry if it feels awkward at first. Like everything else, it gets easier with practice.
Another aspect of pronunciation that's often overlooked is connected speech. This is when words blend together in natural speech. For example, what are you doing? Might sound like what you're doing when spoken quickly.
Yes, Native speakers often connect words to make their speech flow more smoothly. Understanding and practicing connected speech will help you follow conversations more easily and make your own speech sound more fluent.
And don't forget about reduced forms, which are words that are shortened or combined in casual speech. For example, going to becomes gonna, want to becomes wanna, and have to becomes hafta. These are common in everyday English, and using them can help you sound more like a native speaker.
That's right. And while it's important to use these reduced forms to sound natural, it's also important to know when to use them. They're more common in casual, everyday conversation, but you might want to avoid them in more formal situations.
So, to sum up, we've covered a lot of ground. We talked about mastering pronunciation through minimal pairs, focusing on individual sounds, understanding word and sentence stress, practicing rhythm, using pauses effectively, and getting comfortable with connected speech and reduced forms.
That's right, Leo. These elements are crucial for sounding more like a native speaker, but remember, it's a journey. It's not about being perfect, but about improving step by step.
Absolutely. Keep practicing, keep listening, and keep experimenting with your English. The more you immerse yourself in the language, the more natural it will feel.
And we're going to talk about how to build confidence in your speaking, and we'll give you some practical tips on how to keep improving.
Okay, and now we're focusing on something just as important, building confidence and fluency in your speaking.
That's right, Leo. Speaking confidently is key to sounding like a native speaker. It's not just about knowing the right words or having perfect pronunciation, it's about feeling comfortable using English in different situations.
Exactly. Confidence can make a huge difference in how you come across when you speak. Even if you make a few mistakes, speaking with confidence shows that you believe in your ability to communicate, and that's something people really respond to.
So, let's start by talking about why confidence is so important. When you're confident, you're more likely to speak up in conversations, try new words and phrases, and engage with others in English. This leads to more practice, which, in turn, improves your fluency.
And fluency isn't just about speaking quickly. It's about speaking naturally using pauses, connecting ideas smoothly, and not overthinking every word you say. When you're fluent, your speech flows easily, and that makes you sound more like a native speaker.
A big part of building confidence is overcoming the fear of making mistakes. Many learners hesitate to speak because they're worried about saying something wrong. But here's the thing, everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. Mistakes are a normal part of learning.
That's a great point, Linda. Instead of focusing on avoiding mistakes, try to see them as opportunities to learn. Every time you make a mistake, you get a chance to correct it and improve. The more you speak, the more you'll learn what works and what doesn't.
And remember, people are usually more understanding than you think. Most native speakers appreciate the effort you're making to communicate in their language. They're not going to judge you for making a few mistakes. In fact, they might even help you if you get stuck.
That's so true, and here's a tip. If you don't know a word or how to say something, don't be afraid to ask for help. You can say something like, "I'm not sure how to say this, but," or "what's the word for?" This not only helps you learn, but it also shows that you're engaged and eager to improve.
Another way to build confidence is by setting realistic goals. Don't try to learn everything at once. Focus on small, achievable goals, like learning a few new phrases each week or practicing speaking with a friend for 10 minutes a day.
Yes, small goals are much easier to manage and they add up over time. And each time you reach a goal, it gives you a confidence boost and motivation to keep going. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small it might seem.
Speaking of practice, let's talk about some practical ways to build your speaking confidence. One great method is shadowing. This is where you listen to a native speaker and try to speak at the same time, copying their pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm.
Shadowing is like having a conversation with a native speaker, but without the pressure. You can pause, rewind, and repeat as many times as you need until you feel comfortable. It's a great way to practice speaking fluently and naturally.
Another helpful technique is role-playing. This involves imagining yourself in different situations where you might need to speak English, like ordering food at a restaurant, asking for directions, or having a job interview. Practice what you would say in these situations.
Role-playing is a fun way to prepare for real-life conversations. It helps you get used to thinking on your feet and responding naturally. You can do this with a friend, a teacher, or even by yourself.
And let's not forget the importance of positive self-talk. The way you talk to yourself about your language learning journey can have a big impact on your confidence. Instead of thinking, "I'll never sound like a native speaker," try thinking, "I'm getting better every day."
That's such a powerful mindset shift, Linda. Positive self-talk can help you stay motivated and focused on your progress. It's important to be kind to yourself and recognize that learning a language is a long journey with ups and downs.
Another key to building confidence is immersing yourself in English. The more you surround yourself with the language, the more natural it will become. Watch movies, listen to podcasts, read books, and try to use English as much as possible in your daily life.
Yes, immersion helps you think in English, which is a big step towards fluency. When you start thinking in English, you'll find that speaking becomes easier and more automatic. You won't have to translate from your native language as much, which will speed up your speech.
And don't forget about joining language communities. Whether it's an online forum, a local language group, or a conversation exchange, connecting with others who are learning English or who are native speakers can provide valuable practice and encouragement.
Language communities are great because they offer a supportive environment where you can practice without judgment. You can share your experiences, ask questions, and learn from others who are on the same journey.
Now, let's talk about using technology to boost your confidence. There are so many apps and tools available that can help you practice speaking, like language learning apps, speech recognition tools, and even virtual conversation partners.
Technology can be a great supplement to your learning. For example, you can use a speech recognition app to get feedback on your pronunciation, or you can join a language exchange app to practice speaking with native speakers from around the world.
And if you're looking for a fun way to practice, try speaking challenges. Challenge yourself to use a new word or phrase in a conversation each day, or to talk about a different topic in English for a certain amount of time. These challenges can be a fun way to stretch your skills and build confidence.
That's a fantastic idea, Linda. Challenges push you out of your comfort zone, and that's where real growth happens. Plus, they make learning more interactive and enjoyable.
Another important aspect of building confidence is learning from your experiences. After each conversation or speaking practice, take a moment to reflect. What went well? What could you improve? This reflection helps you learn from each experience and get better over time.
Yes, reflection is key. It's not about being critical of yourself, but about being aware of your strengths and areas for improvement. The more you reflect, the more you'll understand your own learning process and how to keep progressing.
And finally, remember that confidence comes with time. It's normal to feel nervous or uncertain when you're learning something new, but the more you practice, the more your confidence will grow. Be patient with yourself and trust the process.
That's right, Linda. Building confidence and fluency is a marathon, not a sprint. Keep practicing, keep pushing yourself, and most importantly, keep believing in your ability to learn and grow.
So, to wrap up, we've covered the importance of confidence in speaking, overcoming the fear of mistakes, setting realistic goals, using techniques like shadowing and role-playing, practicing positive self-talk, immersing yourself in English, joining language communities, using technology, taking on speaking challenges, and reflecting on your experiences.
We hope these tips help you on your journey to speaking like a native speaker. Remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about making progress and enjoying the learning process.
Absolutely, Leo. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and most importantly, have fun with it. Thanks so much for joining us on this journey. We hope you found our series helpful and that you feel more confident in your English speaking skills.
Yes, thank you for being with us. We wish you all the best in your language learning journey. Keep going and remember you've got this.
And one last thing before we go, if you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to share it with your friends and family who might also find it helpful. You can also leave a review and let us know what you think. Your feedback means a lot to us and helps us make our content even better. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, take care and keep learning.
Bye for now.
Goodbye.